go through today that PowerPoint that I was given on the Word 2016 exam, which prepared me literally for the exam. Because what's in this PowerPoint is what was on the exam. So this is a presentation, a PowerPoint done by a guy at the conference I was at last month, about a month ago now. I've got to do my travel today because you got 45 days to do it in, and I just realized I'm running up on the time. So I'm just using his PowerPoint to go by. It was the MOS 2016 exam, which is the one you're using. MOS being Microsoft Office Specialist. Used to be MOUSE, which was Microsoft Office User Specialist, but then they changed it along the way. It is performance testing. And if the water starts lapping at our feet, we'll see what to do. So the one thing I've always liked about the MOS test is that they are performance-based. So you do things on the test. It's not asking you multiple choice questions and you figuring out which is the right multiple choice question. It gives you scenarios that you then do what it wants you to do, and that it'll tell you certain things to do, and that's what he's going to show you, the different type of things it was asking on here, particularly new things for 2016. Now they did change one thing here. Their questions previously, if you read their question carefully, quite often the question gave away the answer. It included the command that you were supposed to do in the question. They've worked on that where they don't have the commands written in the question. So they've done more of that, and that they try to avoid on that. But I still caught them a couple of times where just reading the question carefully, I realized what the answer was. Now, just like what I've told you already in class here, there's more than one way to do it. It is looking for, did you accomplish the task? As opposed to your book, your materials that you're doing, that is looking for you to do it a specific way. As far as Microsoft's concerned for the certification, they don't care how you do it, as long as you get it done. Does everybody follow on that? And you can actually back up and repeat back through the question. And as long as when you get through with that question, it's correct there. So it's going to involve several projects that they ask you questions about doing. So they give you a project and then they ask you to do things on it. I had 7 projects, if I remember right. When I see his number, I should remember right. So there are 2 different exams out there for Word 2016. There's a core exam, which is the basic stuff, and then there's an expert exam, which is more on managing and that type of thing. The one I took was core exam. I did not do the advanced one. I have done the advanced in the past, but now they're getting them more different. They used to be more similar exams, but now they've made them a little more different. And most of my experience with Word 2016 is what I have done with y'all, other than sitting there in the office typing things in there. But I did more stuff with Word 2016 with y'all than I've done of anything else, because we just converted this summer to it, so we've not been using it long and on it. So on it, there's going to be how to create and manage my documents. Y'all did that. Print and save documents. Y'all can do that because y'all have all done that. Format the text, format paragraphs and format sections. We did that in this class. And I will I'm going to post this PowerPoint out there for y'all, okay? But I'm going to put it in the class. Actually, I'm going to put it in all my classes, like I said a few weeks ago. But I just hadn't had a chance to yet, because y'all know how March was for me. But I really had intended to do it back there at the very beginning of March. And then that's when I got sick and everything fell apart. Create tables and lists. Y'all have done that. So we did that in this class. Create and manage references. Remember, we did that where we had endnotes and stuff there and the footnotes. So you've done that. Insert and format graphic elements. We definitely inserted graphic elements. So almost everything on there we've done in this class. Does everybody follow on that? So it wasn't something different. Now the expert one, no, we haven't done those things. But if you went on and took the actual Word class, 2126 I think it is, don't hold me definite on that number, but something like that. Because I think they're 2126 or 2129, but I'm not sure. But if you took that Word class, you should be prepared on that too. But I just haven't recently done more of the advanced stuff. If I could go back and review on it, I'm sure I'd do fine, but all I wanted that day was, when I went to take the exam, was just to get Word 2016 certification. And I've had Office certification, including Word, actually, of all of their products there in Office, all the way back to 97 when they first started MOS certification. And I had experts back there in 97. I've done expert and the core on different exams along the way. I think I have had at least one of the products certified on each one that I've tried to. I don't try to do them all because it really doesn't do anything for me. School doesn't give me any extra money for a certification. And that it's not been where I get anything for it out there other than I get recognized and students say he's an expert on stuff. So then he said on that, demonstrate the correct application, creating and editing 2 to 3 page documents, which is what they give you. They will give you a 2 to 3 page document and then they want you to do something with it. So they got a variety of them that they'll give you also. I wish they didn't have this mouse so tied up, so tight on that cord. I can set it here instead of leaving it down there. Then the expert exam, I'm going to skip over that one because I'm not real worried about that one. When I sat there in this session that day, I paid attention to this first part, and when you got to the expert, I didn't pay him a whole lot of attention. And if y'all do the same type thing at times to me, I understand on that. That we don't need everything in a class. And the instructor that was teaching it, the guy that was telling us about that day, he had no problem with that on us sort of tune them out if we were just interested in the first part, but we weren't interested in the expert because there were a couple other people sitting in the room that tuned them out for the core, but listened to them on expert. Because you don't have to do core before you do expert either. They're just 2 separate exams. If you're going to be their overall Office certified, you have to do the expert ones. But like for me to teach and stuff, and for some schools they do require instructors to be certified. What I've got now, I can go teach Word for anybody anywhere. So then there's the same things we already saw. And that is just listed specifically from the competencies from Microsoft. So then he's going to walk us through and just give us screen prints of where you do the different things. Create a blank document. We went to new, to blank document. And then when I'm working in PowerPoint, I always forget to click over there to create it. Whoops. We really didn't do this here in the class. but I think it was mentioned in your material slightly. But you can, besides opening Word documents there in Word, and that we saw a whole list of things you could open, so there's other things you can open too. But you can actually open PDF documents, which are the Acrobat ones from Adobe. And that you can open them as Word documents. If they were created from Word, you'll have full editing capabilities there. Now, if they weren't created from Word, it's going to be limited on what you can do with it. But it will convert it to an editable document, although some things will change slightly on you, so it may not come out exactly there. Where it used to be, if it was a PDF document, unless you had Acrobat Professional, you couldn't do anything with it. And even then, you were somewhat limited. Now, Word will actually work straight with PDF. Now, object of PDF is that if you're going to distribute this out there to people and for them to print out and stuff, if you give them a PDF document as opposed to a Word document, when they print it, it will always look just like you gave it to them, like it printed on your printer. So it'll print on every printer exactly the same. If you give them a Word document, it changes things to fit the margins, etc. for that printer. And so it'll come out looking different on different printers. So everybody follow on that? Now, the other part is they can edit a Word document. A PDF document, yeah, you can edit it now here in Word, but you're limited on how you can edit on it. So there's that. When I do the forms for the BB gun match and for a couple other things I do forms for, I put the forms out there in PDF, not as Word documents, so that when people print them out, they will look just like I wanted the form to look. If they've actually got Acrobat Pro, they can fill it out online and submit it. Or if I take a whole lot of extra time in Acrobat Pro, I can set it up where they can fill it in and submit it also. Usually I don't do that, and I just make them print it out, write all the stuff in, and then mail it in. Because in a lot of cases we actually want original signature on there where it's a legal deal that we're dropping liability. Insert text from a file or external source. This one, pay attention to. We really didn't do this in class, but it popped up on the test several times, which the guy had told me right here. And he said, this is a new one and one you need to be aware of how to do. But this was different. And he had taken the test like a week or two beforehand. You're going to go to the insert ribbon. And if you come over here under object, there's a text from file. And it will allow you to insert text straight from a file into there. Not copying and pasting, but you're going to go to the file to choose it, and it pops it in wherever you're sitting down here in the file. That's new. It's not something that's been there. So you could copy and paste it, but they're really looking for you to do text from file. And couple of the questions did ask for me to not use copy and paste, but to insert. So I had to know where that was. So that one, I saw that appear several times on it. And he had advised us on that there, told us that was brand new, and I think he's got another slide or two on it later on because he emphasized it. And when I went to take the test, I say, insert text from file definitely appeared on my test and made it a whole lot easier for me from what he had just told me. Navigating through, being able to use the search, using the find, definitely that they'll have you do a find on it with it. Insert hyperlinks and create bookmarks. That again has the ability there. So be aware of those, and it has to do that. Move to a specific location or object in a document. that they had me do that they wanted you to go to a specific spot, and the idea was supposed to be that you would find it and that clicked you to the spot. Format a document, modify the page setup, which we did. You can change your margins and orientation and that type of stuff, and the type of paper. And then apply document themes. Should be the next one because you pretty well. Apply document themes. We really didn't do that in here, but you could go to design and you can choose a theme of how you want that page to look and to put it in a predefined format there to it. There are lots of themes out there, but we didn't do that, and I didn't hardly see that on the test really. It wasn't a make or break item for me. You can obviously add your headers or footers, page numbers. We did that in here, remember? And that you can, here on the design tab, we can put a watermark on the page. We didn't do that in here, but with the watermark, it prints a little graphic on the back of your page, of all of your pages. Quite often when people are developing some document that they're doing as a group or whatever, that they'll put a watermark on it saying it's under development. Or that you finished it, and when you have other people make copies of it, whatever, you want it to show up with this graphic in the background that says this is proprietary material or something else. So you may well use watermark. Page color you may or may not use. It's always been a big thing of people saying to do, but then there's the opposite issue of it will eat your ink on your printer. And that's changing the color of your page. Instead of being a white page that you've got it as another color, well, you'll use up a bunch of ink printing it. So you don't see that very often. If you want to kill somebody's printer, really eat at them, make the background color on the pages to black. And on the laser printers, it doesn't really slow them down. Old printers, it slowed the printers down. But on the laser printers, you'll go eat up all their toner real fast. So page borders, that we can set those, and that we saw that one before. Couple of things on views. We can change the document view, and remember that was right here. Print layout is usually what you've got it in. You could change it to web layout to see what's this page look like if we want and saved it as an HTML document and put it out there as a web page. So several different page views that you can do there. And then you've got some zoom settings right here that we can zoom in, or we can display one or multiple pages on the screen at a time. I've always liked just displaying one page at a time on the screen, but some people like displaying 2, 3, 4 pages on the screen. Harder to read. Now, the one advantage to doing that is if you're doing some layout to it, you can see several pages and you can see how does it look. I'm not usually worried about that part. I'm worried about what's in it, and it's hard to do that when you start putting multiple pages there because it gets small. So I tend to stay to one page. But I will zoom in at times or zoom out. We'll come back to this quick access toolbar. I'm pretty sure he's got something on that. And the split window, that you can split your window so that you can see it in 2 different windows at one time, seeing part of the document on one and another part of it on the other part of the screen, which can be real handy in a big document. Show or hide formatting symbols. We actually mentioned that one in here, which was the paragraph symbol. If you click that one, everywhere where you hit enter in your document, it's going to show the paragraph symbol. So you'll know where, is it soft returns or is it hard returns? Did you actually hit return, or did it just do it because of how the spacing is? It also put, remember, the little dot in there wherever you hit a space bar. It gave you that center dot between words so you can see that you actually typed a space or you typed 4 spaces there. Think back on it. If you typed 1 space or 2 spaces, it was hard to tell on it. Now when we're texting, if we go and type 2 spaces, what happens to us? It puts a period on there and capitalizes the next word, right? Doesn't do that in Word, but sometimes that gets a little confusing when you're looking at something in Word that somebody's gone and put a couple of spaces there instead of 1 space like they should have. And that will bring that one back to you. It actually had me turn that on in a document out there on the test. The quick access toolbar, let's go backwards. When they're talking about that, they're talking about up here at the top, and that you can actually control what's on the top of that screen of things, that there's some quick buttons to click to go to places. It does have you do that in there. If we go to Word options, and that was going back to the first file, and there was an options one on it, and we actually did a little bit of that in here. One of the options down there is Word options, and we go down to quick access toolbar, and we can tell it what's the things to put up there on it. By default, it's save, undo, and redo. You can put some other stuff up there. You can put a find button there, a font button there, your bullets thing could be sitting up there. Things you use all the time, you can add to that quick access toolbar. And they actually have you do that out there on the test of add something to the quick access toolbar. But you just come to here, choose whatever it is, say copy, click add, and it puts it on the list over here. If it's something that you don't want on showing on the quick access toolbar, you select it here, and then you click remove, and it pulls it back off there. Print and save documents. We can modify the printer settings, obviously. We can save them in alternative file formats, which I mentioned already, that you can save it as HTML, you can save it as the old version of Word, you can save it in all kinds of formats out there. We can print all or part of the document. Remember, we can tell it we want to print page 1 or we want to print page 5 or whatever, or we can have it print from 1 through the end of it. Inspect the document for hidden properties of personal information. I'm going to show you that in just a second. I think it shows us also the accessibilities issue, and this is actually going to file, and it gives you a choice there to inspect your document. And they do use the word inspect in the test, even though they said they were trying to get rid of that, which gets you to the right place. And then for compatibility issues, that if you were going to save it in some other format, it's going to have some problems with that. So print options, remember this was clicking on file, and it came up with this. We can choose print. We can choose number of copies. We can choose which printer it is, and just hit the drop down arrow and it'll give you all of your printers. And you usually have 3 or 4 printers there, even though you only have 1 printer. Printing to PDF file is one of your printers. Printing to your actual printer is one of them. Maybe 2 of them going to your printer, depending on the formats it will do. And there's also one for XPS, I think it is, if I remember right, which is Microsoft's version of similar to PDF, but never caught on. PDF caught on and was the thing, and Microsoft's is just set out there in the world the way it's on the game. Settings, we can tell it to print the whole thing, or we can tell it specific pages, etc. to do. We can tell it, if this is a printer that prints on both sides, we can tell it to use only one side of the paper or use both sides of the paper. Now, a lot of your printers, that's not an option there, it's listed there, but your only choice is print one-sided because your printer will only print on one side of the paper. It won't pull the paper back in and print the other side. Collate it. If you're printing multiple copies, collate it says If we do it collated, when we do the multiple copies, it prints all the pages for one copy and then prints all the pages for the next copy. It used to be, it didn't default to collated. And what it did was it printed all of your page ones. So if you printed 20 copies of this document, you got 20 page ones, 20 page twos, 20 page threes, and you had to sort it all out. Tell it to be collated. It prints 1 through 20, 1 through 20, 1 through 20. Does everybody follow on that? So collated is really nice. Then what orientation do you want to print it in? And remember, you could have sat there and worked with it in one orientation, and you could switch it here to another. And then you can actually change the margins, etc. And then the save and alternative formats. Here's the list of them. We can save in some varieties of Word. We can save in PDF. We can save in XPS, which I mentioned really is not used out there. You can save it into some web page formats. If you were going to do that, you'd save it in web page. The single file web page is really not used out there. Looks like I'm stabbing the poor board and it's bleeding. And I'm not even touching the board, and it's obviously got some skin disease today or some type bad. We can put it in plain text,
What?
TXT.
What's that?
We can print it to a plain text document, which is just the text and no editing to it. If you write any programs on the computer, you'll do them in plain text. If you go and do an HTML document that you decide to do your own web page, you'll do that in plain text actually, because you don't want to edit it to it. You want just the characters you type. That's what plain text is. Rich text is sort of like the doc format, but it's a plainer one. It's more generic. It's got some basic stuff to it, very simple. XML gets sometimes more complicated, some stuff on it. Open document is for Office, Open Office, which is a free version of Office out there made by some other people, not by Microsoft, that works similar to Office, but you don't have to buy. You can get it for free. It's got its own format, which it notes here as the Open document. Works was a Microsoft editor, actually it was an Apple editor, word processor that worked on Apple computers, old Apple computers, when they were Apple IIs and such. Works was the popular one back there that Apple included. Now actually most people are using Microsoft Office on Macs because they've actually got a version of it for it. So some of that's old stuff. So if we clicked on Info, check for issues, it says Inspect Document, and that's where they just got themselves completely in a trap right here. It has 3 choices down here for you. Inspect Document, that is a highly useful one on the exam. It will let you go in and see information somebody has put behind the document. On my picture, I use this hidden properties on my pictures that I've got on every one of them. It's got a copyright note behind all of my pictures that says it's copyrighted whatever year by Dwight Watt. That way, if one of y'all tries to claim a picture that I know I took, and we get in a dispute about it, about whether is that my picture or not, all I gotta do is get you to show bring the original file in. We'll open it up, look at the properties on it, and it'll be distinct if it's my picture. It shows my name pops up at that point, and at that point you sort of get quiet and slink out of the room and go on your way of, he caught me using his picture. Okay? So you can check for, and there's a bunch of properties you can put in there on the document. Who wrote it, when it was written, is it copyrighted? What's it about? Tags that go on it, which actually if you put it out onto the internet, that Google then looks at, and when somebody goes to search for something similar, it uses those tags, etc. Accessibility, it goes in and looks at your document to see if there's anything that would make it difficult for people with disabilities to read your document. White print on a black background, that we mentioned earlier, is not good for people. Red and green text through it won't work for people that are colorblind, because colorblind people can't tell the difference between red and green. Okay? Insert text in paragraphs and order text in paragraphs, etc. So then he's going to show you on that in just a second. Insert text in paragraphs, we can find and replace it. Cut and copy, you knew how to do that anyway. You can turn on autocorrect, and I think he has a screen in a second on autocorrect where you can change what it automatically changes spellings of. So if there's something you're always typing in there that's spelled differently, you can go in and put it in autocorrect where it handles it. Insert special characters, that's where you can add in other characters in your document. So again, if we're back into the options, which we're back in the file menu, and we looked at general a minute ago, now if we look at proofing, that we can tell it to do certain things, to capitalize the first letter of sentences. And these are defaults on it. And then it's got a list down here of text that you want replaced with another word. And you know how when you're typing in Word sometimes, you type T-H-E, T-E-H, and poof. When you hit space, it changes it to T-H-E automatically for you. That's autocorrect. And you're typing in other places, it doesn't do that for you. You can add down here to just tell it, here's the word I want us, that I type in wrong. And here's what I want to replace it with. So that, for instance, one of the churches I work with, that the secretary there should have probably put on autocorrect on her machine that Ricky is spelled R-I-C-K-E-Y, because the preacher they've got currently, that's how he spells Ricky. Where it's going to normally want to go with R-I-C-K-Y. Okay? And so she can fix it to make her job easier on her, and then whenever she does hit somebody that she has to type in Ricky the other way, she can go override it. And then the format text and paragraphs. Word art was one of them available too, and that you can actually choose it to look in different type of formats. We really didn't do that in here, and it didn't barely ask that on the test for me. I'm not sure if I actually had a question on it, but it was there. Format painter, you can go in, select an area, say it looks like this, you can go to another area and use format painter until it edit it the same way that what the other spot was I had. Clear formatting, that if we come down here, that and that we can change text to word art. Let's change it to word art. Let's changing it into fancier type letters and stuff. Order and group text and paragraphs. That's where you can get it into multiple columns. If you click into go into here, the layout, you can actually choose columns, and you can tell it how many columns you want. So if you're doing a newsletter, you can tell it to do it in columns instead of it all being one column, which is by default. Choose the number of columns and how you want to label. And then you can choose that you want the columns to just rotate over. How you want text wrapping around pictures. If you stuck a picture in there, do you want text to be written on beside that picture, or leave it alone, or do you want the text on the left or the right? You all do your thing section break, what does it do at that point, and then you can break it into sections. Again, not a lot of that on this thing. Creating tables and lists. You can go in and type something in, and then you can highlight it, and you can choose what type of table you want it to look like, and these are all your table options. You'll tell it whether it's got a header row on it, which means you've got labels across the top of it, and that type of stuff, and then you can choose and set those accordingly. Or we can create a table and we can tell it it's got so many columns and so many rows. You just choose a spot out here and set the table up there, and then you type your stuff into the table. Or you can take stuff you've already typed in that you've got tabbed between, and you can tell it to create it into a table from there and make it look real nice and clean. Modifying, you can actually sort it, that you can go into your layout on it, and we can do some different things. We can merge cells if we want, and we can actually do some other type things to them, and we can insert more rows or more columns just by the insert above, below, left, or right. So whichever row you're sitting on, if you do insert above, it creates a blank row for you above the row you're on. List, we actually did those in here, remember, and that you could choose your bullets, remember, and y'all had to choose a custom bullet, if I remember right, that they had you do. And then you can choose where it's got its default numbering to it, of which way you want to number your list. And by default, it is going with regular numbers, lowercase letters, Roman numbers, etc. Or you can choose another type of format to it to create your list for it. And then you can always start or stop those numbering at any point. And if you want to stop it, that all we're going to do is click right here. That if we want to continue the numbers we were on, we can say continue numbering. That you were typing away and you stop, done something else, come back to it, and you want to continue, and you type stuff in between, but now you want to continue the numbers like you were doing. You can continue numbers, or you can choose to set a new numbering value to it at that point. And you can change the font on that stuff too, so that the numbers itself. References, you can insert footnotes and endnotes, and remember that's just at the point where you want that you've got something you're putting a footnote onto, you're just choosing at that point on going to reference it, click on the spot where you're going to put it in at, go to references, and then that you can add, insert an endnote or a footnote there. Insert footnote, insert endnote. You can build your bibliography like you want. It asked for me to put an endnote into it, but it really didn't ask about bibliographies on it. And then you can actually, on pictures, you can put a caption underneath the picture, which is just a label that belongs to that picture and stays with the picture no matter how you move the picture around. That's the good part about doing a caption as opposed to just typing it there. You can insert a regular table of contents. I don't remember having a question on actually doing a table of contents on mine. Then you can insert your graphics. And so you can insert shapes. I think we did that in here, but if you go to insert, you go to shapes, and it gives us a whole bunch of shapes you can choose. You got big arrows, all kinds of odd things that you can insert in there. You can actually insert pictures. So if you had a picture of me you want to insert in your document, you can just go to insert pictures and go find the picture of me on your computer and insert it. You can also do a screenshot. So you can go and sit there and do the print screen, or using the snipping tool and then insert it, because that puts it on the clipboard and you can then insert it from there. If you just do insert, it will put it in. And we can also insert text boxes, which is putting a box within your document, but you type stuff inside that box, and it's separate. So then the graphic elements that you can format them, you can apply different effects to them. If it's got a picture background to it, you can actually remove that. You can wrap text around the objects. And remember, that is, if you've got your document there, depending on how you set wrap, depends on whether the picture may sit on its row completely by itself, or if you tell it to wrap, it will actually put it in there. And you can tell it to wrap tight, or you can tell it to wrap just on the left side of the picture or the right side of the picture, and it just does that every time it sees a picture. You know, where on professionally done things, you're going, things are nicely done there. But you got to be careful on wrap sometimes, that you got to tell it to leave a margin between the picture and the text. And there actually is a margin for that also. And then adding alternative text for accessibility. I think he shows us that one in just a second. But that's where you're going to put in, so that when you hovered over this picture, if that had been done on this picture here, we would have a little pop-up box pop up there saying that this is a picture of a flower, or whatever we had put in there. They're sitting there going, well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Somebody that's blind, that is reading your document, and they're not going to be literally reading off the screen, they're going to be using JAWS or some other program that reads it to them. It will tell it, when it sees that, it will say, here's an image in the document, and then it will tell it what the alternative text is for it, and tell it that this is a picture of whatever the person had said. If the alternative text isn't put there, JAWS will just read to them, there's an image. It doesn't tell them anything about the image. And so then they're sitting there going, well, what was it a picture of? Might be important to know what the picture was of right there. So even if you go to like my web page, I know I've got it well on the first page, and I think I've got it good on the other places through it. But if you hover over any of the pictures on my web page, it pops up a little pop-up there that says this is a picture of Dwight at somewhere. This is a picture of Dwight at the Alamo, or this is a picture of Dwight with a couple from Daisy, etc. And so there's information there for somebody that's blind looking at my web page to know. No, they can't see the picture itself, but they know what the picture is of, and so they get the context of my whole web page there and get the bit of that. I've been lots of places just like you do. They don't get to see a picture, obviously, but they know what it says. So effects, you can actually go into a picture and choose artistic effects, and you've got bunches of them to choose from. You've got those listed over there, and then that splits into these right here, and that you can change how that picture looks. So you can make it more look like an oil painting or whatever to it. So you may decide that you're putting a picture of me in there, and that instead of me in color, I would look better in black and white. You can choose to black and white on it, or you can decide that maybe this will do interesting when it looks at my face on there. Because who knows what I would come out looking at with those color lines all around on the facial part. So you can get some weird things, or that you really don't want them to see. That the requirement was you had to put a picture of me in your document, and you're going, but I really don't want a picture of him. I'll just go into that beveled look to it, and nobody will ever be able to tell who it is anyway. But I met the requirement. Text wrapping, that was what I already mentioned to you, but you can choose how you want it to wrap around on it, and where does it put it. On there, it was in line with text as by default, and it just puts it as a separate line there, or that we can tell it to put it up in the upper left area, or center, or put it to the bottom, and then how the text does on it. Type says put the print right up to the edge of the picture. If it's a dark picture, that doesn't work real well. But if it's always white background pictures, that'll work because they'll put it right on up to the edge. And there's no wasted page space. Through. That's an interesting one too. That says put the picture in there. They get stuck in there, but the type just keeps right on going like normal. So if we chose through, it would show type going right across the picture. And that the print goes straight on across the picture. And y'all have seen that sometimes because it works on some things. So if you're looking in a magazine or a newspaper or something else, you'll occasionally see them actually use type through because they want the picture sort of behind all of this text, and it works for it. Doesn't work in a lot of cases, but it's an alternative there for you. Smart art graphics. There's a lot of different graphics out there under Smart Art that you can choose, and that they're already sitting there for you, and then you can type actually into those boxes once you insert. So you can choose a Smart Art graphic to do some drawing of basic things for you. Those can be interesting. That I've used them a few times, but not much. They could leave it off Office and I'd never miss it. That's how much I've used it. So then here's about how to edit it. And that, so if you chose something, then it's going to show you that you got text boxes for each of the areas, and you can choose one accordingly. They had chose this one. It's got 5 boxes there, and notice you can put text in each one of the boxes. And it appears as those 5 boxes looking like that with your text in it. I thought this rain would let up sooner or later sometime. And it wasn't even supposed to start till 10 o'clock this morning. All right, questions on that? That is all the way through it. The rest of it's the expert stuff. So I'm not going to go through that in here. But I am going to put the whole PowerPoint out there for you. So if you want to look at the expert stuff, you can go through and look at that part too. Okay? If you're going to go take the Moss exam at some point, or if you know somebody else that is planning to go take the Moss Word exam, look at this PowerPoint before you go. Because it literally did touch on a lot of things. They gave me, if I remember right, 7 documents, and then they had like 5 questions on each document of something for me to do to the documents. It may have been as easy as save it as whatever name, or it was open the document, or it was go in and find Dwight Watt in it and underline it. Well, I could have scrolled all the way through looking for that, or go use the find button for Dwight Watt, put you right to it, and then highlight Dwight Watt and choose underline. Or to change color or something else. And so it was a lot of that type stuff, and it was do something very specific, and then you told it done, clicked on to the next one. It does let you backtrack on questions. Because I actually had a question at the beginning on it that I went, ooh, I'm not exactly sure on what it's asking me here. I took a stab at it, and at one time they didn't let you backtrack, so I went ahead and took my best stab and went, I'm not going to waste time here. But it gave me an option to mark it, and I thought, wait a minute, if it lets me mark this for review, it's going to let me come back. So I went on through, I marked it and finished up, and when I finished it said, you got items for review. So then I could tell it, go back, look at those, and I had a couple of them, because there was a couple others I'd gone, I want to look at this again later, if I have time when I finish the test. And so then I clicked back at it, and in most of them, as I had gone on through the test, they'd actually given me the answer later on, or told me something, or something I did that I went, oh, I remember how to do that now. And so then when I went back to it at that point, I fixed it to what it was supposed to be. Now, you can also do it any time on a question that you can tell it to clear it. But if you clear it, you have just gotten rid of everything you did on that question. And you got to start all over again on the question. I don't usually ever do clear because it's looking for the end result. So if I can figure my way out of it at that point, I'll go ahead and just do it from there. May have taken a long way around to get there, but Microsoft doesn't care. It's can you get it done? You are under a time limitation for the whole test. I think I had an hour to do it in. and that I finished it with like 10 minutes to spare on it. It was, but then let's say I sat there at the end and looked back at several questions several times, and I knew I was in good shape at that point too, because you can have a feel for how you're doing as you go along. And then all you got to make on the test is a 70 to pass it. Okay, I made, if I remember right, I think I sent y'all the scores, but I think it was 87.1 was what my score was. It's going to be hard to make it perfect because you're probably going to make a typo somewhere in there. Probably most of those points was actually not me not knowing something on it, of more of I'm just typed something wrong or I forgot to finish out. Normally you got to leave the stuff open. It will tell you if it wants you to close the stuff up, that you just got to get to it all chosen. And I could have skipped a step or something on that sometimes. So that's usually where it's going to catch. It tells you in a summarized statement at the end, which you can actually print out. I couldn't from there, we didn't have the ability, but I can go back to it now to Certiport's site. And I think I'm going to have to, because I think that's the only way I get my certificate, is I got to go to their site and tell it to print the certificate for me. It will also print the results for me, where it'll give me summarized by all those categories and tell me, did I do that area correct or not? Now, it won't tell me on specific questions, because it won't get specific questions back, but it'll tell me, you need to work on this area or you did good on this area. And so you can have a feel for that. There are some practice type tests out there also on the internet that you can practice on this. If you were going to do it anytime soon, no, and I may be able to get you a practice test, because Certiport was telling me where some practice tests are, and I think their practice tests are probably pretty good right now. Over time, sometimes they're not as good. They had some really good ones from Microsoft Technology Associate a few years ago, and then they updated the test, but they didn't update the practice test. And last year I figured that one out. I took their practice test beforehand and went, okay, I know HTML well for your test. Walked in and bombed the test. Because what they asked me on the test was nothing about what was on the practice test, and it wasn't stuff that I normally do in HTML either. It was,
And on these exams, we've had a few of them that it didn't say what we had studied, you know,
so, but at the minimum, they're going to give you, where we had all those numbered lists in here, you can go out and find that on any of the tests, which is just a list of the competencies. The Word one does a better, the Microsoft Office ones do better on giving you specific things on it. Adobe doesn't do as well on their exams of really explaining the competencies they want you to study for, which I took the Adobe Photoshop CC exam and made 480 or something on it that same week. But I've never used Photoshop CC as first thing. I've used lots of previous versions of Photoshop, and I'm actually certified in CS5 or 4, I don't remember which one of the two. And they had things on there that I've never done with Photoshop. And so, in fact, I hadn't studied for it, and then that I've never used a product, I thought a 480 was a pretty good test score. They didn't charge me at this conference to take these tests, so that was the reason for taking them. And so I could go take 1 or 2 free tests from them. And when I get an opportunity to take a free test, I usually take them up on it. There's usually something there that I'd like to take, and then sometimes I'll take something I'm just curious on, like the Photoshop one. I really didn't expect to pass that test when I walked in to take it. I wasn't sure, but I was going, if it asked the right questions, I'll pass it. Well, it didn't ask the right questions. Word, I was really expecting to pass the test when I took that one, especially after I'd gone through this. Any questions? So that gives you a little synopsis of that one. You may or may not be looking to go certify on it or whatever, but at least you have some idea of some stuff about it now, if you are curious later. If you're going to go further here at the school with office, either in the business program or the computer area, computer support or whatever, I would take the Word exam, the Word class first before I went to the test. Okay, where you do just Word for a whole semester and get into advanced things and do more of it. Because we went through pretty fast there in 2 weeks or whatever it was we did it in. But think about it. Almost everything that we just mentioned today, we covered in those 2 weeks. Now, agreed, I gave you some more than what the book gave you. Okay? But it was pretty much, most of that stuff was all things I covered for you in here. Okay? So, if you just go back and play with it a little beforehand too. And there's nothing bad about failing the exams. I don't remember Certiport's transcript shows that you failed exams or not. Microsoft's transcript I don't think shows any failed exams on me. I can go in and see that by looking at the testing site, but as far as the Microsoft transcript, all it shows is the test I've passed. In most cases, they don't ever give out test scores either. Now, you'll have plenty of people swear up and down out there that they made perfect on certification tests and stuff. In some cases, it wasn't possible because there are some tests out there that you take, there is no perfect score on it. If you get a certain amount of them right, it passes you. If you fail a certain number of the questions, it fails you. And that it asks you questions so it determines you've either passed or failed, and there is no score given back to you. You're just told you passed or failed it. And yet I'll read all of these people that took the same test and I passed it, and almost always when I do those, I take it in the minimum number of questions, oddly enough, and I hate those exams. And as far as I know, I've passed every one of them, but I don't like them still. And I'm going, you don't know if you made a perfect score or not. On other tests like the one I just took, on this one, yes, I would have known. It would have given me 100. But as far as certification is concerned, if Haley had taken it and made 100 on it, and my 871, we both get the same piece of paper that says we're certified in it. And I think the transcript actually just shows pass on both of us. But we both definitely got the same credential for it, and the piece of paper doesn't say any difference. So if she and I walk in for an interview, both for it, when they look at our certificate, we both look the same.
So this is for the certification.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What about, are we going to have a final exam?
In here? I don't think so.
No, we're not.
I don't.
That would be great if we did.
I don't. Let me, Angel. I think there is, but I'm not sure if there is now that you're saying on it. Assignments.
I think CIMNET has it.
Due dates.
Then we have the final exam.
It says final exam 2016, May.
Yeah,
2nd.
there is a final exam. So it'll cover some of all of the different things. Okay? And that you'll do, that will open up on April the 29th and be available through May 2nd. Which means it'll open on Saturday and goes through Tuesday.
April 29th, right? May 2nd.
May 2nd, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are we to do all the calls and practice throughout the?
Everything through the, what they've got you doing in the chapters. When you go through the chapters, you should be doing. I don't think the pause and practice you got to do.
We don't have to do? Oh my God, I don't have to do the reason.
It gives you the experience on it, so I would encourage you to do it.
I know it hasn't been getting your grade on it.
If it doesn't, then you don't need to do it.
Okay.
Okay? Now, it's not transferring some grades over for some reason.
I know
so-
it's not, I've seen that.
And
too.
everything should be transferring over, because if I go to grades, I can't do that. That when I looked at it the other day, that I was going, it doesn't look like it's transferring everything, and this is supposed to be automatically transferring everything that counts. So I've got to look at that again to see what's going on, because it's supposed to be automatically updating itself and putting all the stuff there. I don't have them grouped out in here yet, so it doesn't do the final average correctly, because I haven't told it what each of them are. Because if I do have to hit for it to update again on it, it's going to wipe out every setting I type in there and put all of your stuff back in there as just SimNet grade as the category, as opposed to things in assignments and things in tests, etc. So I've sort of held off on that, and I intend to do that in the next, hopefully this week or next week. So I'm hoping to work on that. I thought I might last week, but I didn't really get to that. I did get all the grading done in my other classes, got caught up on that, and then I actually did take off 2 days and got away for 2 days to go do something else for a day or so. But I will get that stuff, those updated there, and I'm going to go back out and look at those grades again. But it does give you on the reading, it does give you on doing the assignments that you're supposed to be getting grades off that, and the test on it. So all of that should be appearing there. And remember to do your discussions, and I actually looked at all of those and got those caught up if you had done all the stuff. And remember, there's deadlines on this discussion, so some of you missed some discussion things. So that at this point, the only thing you got left on discussions is work ethics discussion 4. So if you haven't done that one, get out there and do that one.
So what if we have done 3?
If you didn't do 1, 2, and 3, they're already great.
But I haven't done 3 yet, because I was behind on, because when I went to hospital.
Now let me think on it, but right now I've actually put grades out there on, because I put deadlines onto those. So, because the other problem's going to be when we get down here to the end, that's Friday the 28th. That's Tuesday the 2nd that you've got to have the exam done by. And by May the 4th, I think it is, 10 a.m. on May the 4th, I have to turn in all the grades for all 11 classes of mine. And so I can't have everything all coming in the last week on me and then trying to grade things and stuff. This class is auto grading most of it. Most of my other classes, I have to sit there and grade stuff on it, and there are people that will turn in a semester's worth of work in the last 3 days of the semester. But that won't work for them this semester, because I am charging the late penalties. It's not really popping up on y'all's because of the auto grading, so if you're behind on some other stuff other than the discussions, you should be able to still go back and catch up on some of that stuff. Okay? So I've actually had a student who wanted to start taking the test in a class last week. Took test number 1, made 80 something on the test, and got a 0 on the test. Because I take 10 points off a week for lateness, and they were 8 weeks late in doing the test, and so that was 80 points off for lateness. So they effectively wiped out their whole score anyway. And I'm going, why haven't you been taking the test anyway? And never got an answer on that.
That ain't about us, though. You said we could go to the...
But y'all,
Yeah.
and yours, it doesn't have deadlines sitting
Deadlines, right, yeah.
on you, on that type of stuff.
Okay.
Okay?
I'll make sure.
So yours is letting you get away with some stuff other than on the discussion. Okay? And that's just a small little part of your whole grade anyway. And then I think there's one of those parts of the grades not even transferring across. So I may just not even worry about that part and just give you credit for that. since it's not transferring for whatever reason, because somebody else had this thing all set up, and that's the way, and the way they had it set up is the way they all swear up and down they're all teaching it by. And I've done a little modification to it, because I changed your deadlines in here, because they had everything due a week before the end of the semester, and then had you doing nothing in the last week. And I'm going, wait a minute. We go 15 weeks for a reason. And so I rescattered it out because some of it was jammed together. And so at this point, basically, y'all got access to finish, and you got PowerPoint, and PowerPoint's usually easy for everybody. So,
Is that really, really hard?
huh?
PowerPoint?
PowerPoint's usually real easy. The PowerPoint's just doing the presentations like we just watched on the other, learning how to set those up just like you did. Okay?
PowerPoint would be almost fun.
So PowerPoint usually is real simple for people. Because usually you've done, if you can do Word, you can definitely do PowerPoint. PowerPoint's less than Word. Okay? But you can do some neat things with PowerPoint, so you can get powerful with PowerPoint. Because like what I do with it at church on Sunday, I do some more stuff to it. And so you can get to doing some nice things to PowerPoint too, but they don't have you going real far in it, but it's usually, and the other part is everybody can picture PowerPoint. Access, y'all got a hard time trying to figure out what in the world is that exactly, and what am I doing this with, and why would I ever use it? PowerPoint you can see you would use, okay? And I know that on Access on it. Excel, you're going to use that maybe some, just like where I've got to type in the next day or so, all of the checks I wrote last year that were deductible expenses for taxes, I'll put in an Excel spreadsheet so I know how much money did I give to the church, how much money I gave to this charity, how much money I gave to that, how much money I paid for memberships. All of those things you can take off on your taxes. I'll put in an Excel spreadsheet and I'll get it auto add for me and gives me all my numbers, and I just put them over into TurboTax. Word, y'all will use that. Everybody will use Word at some point. You may not use some of the things like we just looked at and stuff, but you'll use the basics of it. Outlook, you're going to use some type of email program, no matter who you are out there in the world. That there's very few people in the U.S. that don't use email. Okay? My uncle in South Carolina that's almost 95 years old is one of those that doesn't use email. Okay? My uncle that's 93 out in Arizona does use email right and left.
There's quite a few young people in my community that's about my age, they don't do anything. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to learn the computer, because I see how advanced it is and how far behind that I am. And so I was like, I don't want to be like them.
But a large amount of your communications is done with email nowadays. Okay? Even though we're texting, etc., Facebooking, etc., still there's a lot, and particularly more formal communications, you're going to use email. Internet, that you're going to use it in some way or another, probably in this country now, where they're looking up information, ordering, etc. Although, statistics I saw this weekend is interesting that at this point in time, of the 7 billion people in the world, only 3 billion are on the internet at this point. With some advances they're making right now, and like Facebook putting up the satellites to do more satellite internet, they're expecting to add 1 billion people on between India and China mainly, but that still leaves 3 billion people in the world that they're looking at now, how to get internet to them in Africa, etc., where there's no power, and to doing it and doing that type of thing. So even though when we look around, we're thinking everybody's on the internet. No, they're not. And then there's a number of people in our country that don't use internet still.
Don't they say that the number of devices connected to the internet is still greater than the population?
Mm-hmm. Oh, and it's going to go astronomically up from there. So that, because you think about your cell phone, the number of devices you've got connected to the internet for y'all, you cover for a number of other people. Because you've got your cell phone connected to the internet, you've got your desktop or laptop or tablet sitting at home connected to it, you've got the machine sitting in front of you connected to it, you've got the GPS possibly connected to it sitting in the car, you may have XM radio sitting in the car or Sirius that's sitting there going through the internet. You may have a couple of tablets, some of you do, etc. If we just go out and look in my car, that there's 2 laptop computers sitting in the trunk of the car, one that's a school laptop and one that's my personal laptop I take around with me normally. Actually, this personal one's not sitting in the car right now, but it was over the weekend. I carried it in the house during the week, but if I needed stuff on it, I'd take it with me. So we can real quick end up 4 or 5 things, and then you may have some appliances sitting at home connected to the internet. Your TV may be on the internet for Netflix, etc. There's actually some of you that have a toaster connected to the internet. Some of you have got a security system connected to the internet, so that you can sit there, that Haley can sit there and go, ooh, I don't know if I locked the front door or not, and that she can push a button on her cell phone and go, I've done locked the front door and set the alarm, and if anybody else is still at the house, when they go and move around, they're going to set off the alarm now. I don't know if she's got a security system or not, but one of you may well have a security system that allows you to do that, or to lock the windows, etc. Okay? Across the internet.
Refrigerators have it, yeah.
And that your refrigerator's got it. You've got now getting the ability on your refrigerator for it to actually notice what products you've got in it. And that if Abby, you drank the last of the milk this morning when she ate her bowl of cereal, that the refrigerator will tell her later in the day that she needs to buy a gallon of milk today so that she'll have some milk for her cereal tomorrow morning. Okay? And you actually have refrigerators that will do that now. Okay? I don't have any of those things on it, but the other one is my camera actually connects to the internet. So you've got lots of things, and your car may actually connect to the internet also. So lots of things on you.
So they really could keep up with you all.
And when we drive by and look at those huge sprinkler systems running across the crops and stuff, a lot of them are starting to connect to the internet so that then they can detect that it is raining today and there's no reason to pump that water and use that energy to go water the crops today because they've gotten plenty of water anyway. Which always looked a little stupid to us when we drive by and it's pouring down rain right now, watching the irrigation system running. Now you've got internet capable irrigation systems that get around that whole problem. Okay? So, there's tons more stuff coming with the Internet of Everything. Or the Internet of Things, depending on which one you hear it called. Alright, I will see y'all Wednesday